Hey everyone, this is Louis7, and today I have part 1 of my new legendary item system review in the Lord of the Rings Online. So this is going to be as we are heading into the Gundabad expansion soon, but this one is going to be a review focusing on basically some concerns I have with the new ally system and the upcoming expansion with that. So to start off, most of this video is going to be on traceries and acquiring them. Currently, I am skeptical that the tracery system will leave a good feeling for players. With the way traceries are highly dependent on the rarity and quality of them, as in like gold traceries are the gold standard, so to speak, anything less than gold quality kind of feels meh to use. And because of the setup, I believe the most important thing for the new system is that gold traceries need to be easily accessible, especially considering the core class impact they have. If anyone remembers back to my LI Hopes video I did before the system came out, I was hoping the system would convert class power back to the class, as in like a major reduction or even full removal of class-specific boosting affixes, and instead balancing classes within their own baseline systems or the class trait system. And in this new LI system, we have basically the opposite of that, with 12 class traceries at level 130 at least, which for the most part they do feel quite important, and important to have the highest quality possible, which again is gold or legendary. Right now, acquiring gold traceries is somewhat inconsistent. You can get them from both quests, and sometimes random instance bosses will have them. Now, the traceries that you get from these are usually going to be completely random and have no player choice. So not only is there a feeling of inconsistency in how you get the traceries, it's very inconsistent if you'll get a good or bad tracery, and it feels really bad to get a bad tracery now that's not useful, especially if it is gold quality. But to go into some details with the instances, there is the last boss, for example, in the 6-man instance series. Surma will always give each player a single random gold tracery if you run it on tier 2, that is. But then similar instances, or even higher difficulty instances on tier 3+, sometimes won't even give gold traceries, or even some raids won't give gold traceries while the 6-man instance does. I'm not saying it's a bad thing that Suri Surma gives it, more so I'm saying that I would like to see some consistency and more player choice as well in the traceries, because and ultimately would just rather see more commonly just see actually gold traceries in all forms and all sized group content. Again, with the way the tracery system is currently set up, I don't think I will like the system if gold traceries do feel inaccessible for casual players. I'll touch on Enhancement Runes in a moment, but I think Enhancement Runes, raising the item level of traceries, is a much better area for there to be grind, and even content-gated quality barriers, such as gold enhancement runes being quite rare outside of higher tier instances, would much rather that than the traceries themselves feel inaccessible and gated, especially considering the emphasis of power on the quality of the tracery. But to go ahead and get back to the note on acquiring traceries, with the way things are set up right now, I am also not sure this is a feel-good and rewarding system. With the archive of traceries and the huge amount of ancient scripts you get from appraising old allies, this hasn't been much of a problem at launch, but the reality of the new system is you are supposed to get most of your traceries through content in the game, such as running instances, getting them as dungeon rewards, getting them from quests, and similar methods. Bartering and getting ancient scripts sounds a lot more like a secondary thing, or at least a much less common way to get traceries according to Standing Stone Games comments. And I suspect this will unfortunately cause a few issues, and the biggest concerning one to me is looting traceries feels really bad when you get one that is useless for your character. And then on top of that, you can't trade it, so your only option is to really get a small amount of ancient scripts from disenchanting it. The whole series of events feels bad instead of rewarding, and even worse is when it is from a one-time offering such as a quest reward. And I've already heard players quite frustrated at this RNG system, and my concern is this would only get worse over time in the new expansion when this type of stuff starts mattering a lot more when players work to get their 131 to 150 traceries in Gundabad. So in short, traceries and acquiring them in Gundabad doesn't sound like it will be fun based on what we have in the game right now. Hopefully the content in the expansion being developed specifically with and for even the new LI system, that will make it a lot more seamless and much better experience than everything level 130 and below, but then again, maybe not if it does follow what we have right now. But still, I think moving forward, a lot of places in the lower level ranges may need continued adjustments in the future. Also on this note, on lower levels, stay tuned for a future video focusing on the acquisition of allies for the first time on a character and that experience. I'll be saving everything, including the concerns, for that review. But moving on, to compound some of the lack of excitement with looting traceries is Enhancement Runes acquisition. And honestly, getting Enhancement Runes to me is just boring. This is particularly true for chests and instances. Each time I have looted an enhancement rune, I have actually felt disappointed, and I think that one aspect of this is that the appraisal process gives you tons and tons of enhancement runes, so like looting a single rune feels very insignificant. But a bigger problem is I feel like the reward is just much less impactful than looting a tracery. Every chest that ends up giving me an enhancement rune just gives me this feeling that I got really bad loot compared to even a low quality tracery. And to combat this feeling in Gundabad, and ideally even retroactively applied to like all the level 130 and below content, I would love to see enhancement runes and traceries loot be made independent of each other, as in getting an enhancement rune doesn't feel like it costs you a tracery and vice versa. With all the enhancement runes you need, ideally each chest I think could even give an enhancement rune in addition to a tracery. And if that does not somehow work out, it would be really nice to be able to disenchant enhancement runes themselves into ancient scripts or something, so you don't have to sell them for silver if you have absolutely no use out of them, because again, that feels kind of bad. And that actually leads us to another reason I feel this way, is that is because you can't make use out of enhancement runes once you have completely gone out of their level. And that is true outside of at least making alts or making new LI sets for your character. But it ends up with enhancement runes feeling like they can be a bit wasted to me. And another option I think could improve the enhancement runes feeling bad is to make it so you can combine low quality enhancement runes into higher quality ones. This is a function that I actually think many systems in LOTRO really could actually use, but I believe it would make enhancement runes feel less bad to loot if you at least knew you could eventually make a higher quality enhancement rune through combining a number of low quality ones. Anyway, we should go ahead and move on from that, and the next thing I have on my list is stat/set traceries, also known as Word of Craft using in-game terms. And if I remember correctly, these were said to have been in a relatively extra unfinished state compared to everything else that came with the Gundabad pre-patch. So while I expect there to be more set bonuses for the different tracery types we have right now at a later time, it still is a concern to me that a lot of these traceries outside of the Ascendant Elemental ones will feel pointless unless they do get their set bonuses added. Also, I will point out that Evade, Block, and Parry, those traceries feel kind of pointless right now, and this is a broader issue with not only the other tracery types, but also with stats in general in LOTRO. I would love to see a lot of the BPE traceries either be changed into something more useful, or to have them just like removed altogether. Part of the reason I would like this is because these are examples of traceries that I always feel bad looting considering their relative uselessness for everybody. Alright, on to the last part of this review. We'll cover the lack of information the game gives you on the new LIs, and actually I don't mean just the lack of in-game intro quest and tutorial on the new system, which the game definitely could use. But with the lack of information, the first thing here is an easy one. I think the UI needs like a ground up rework because it's really doesn't give you good information on what you're doing or how to do things, and just is kind of difficult to work with and very unintuitive, but I have talked about that ad nauseum, so we'll go ahead and skip over that one for now. And the first thing to really cover here is with reforging, and I would much prefer if the game actually tells you what you get for reforging. This used to be much simpler with the old system because you would just get 10 more levels unlocked on your new LI when you reforge, but now you get an unspecified amount of item level increase, and maybe you get a tracery and maybe not, and you don't even know what tracery slot you'll get if you do get one. So all of that is now unknown to the player until they reforge, or they would have to look the information up themselves, which still may not be perfect info. So perhaps a broader user interface rework along with a legendary items UI rework could solve the previous issue as well as this one about reforging. But either way, it's still a concern I have moving forward. Moving on, the tooltips on the new legendary items is also quite rough. So while I would like to see some improvements there, what is even worse is if you try to look at someone else's LIs. If you do that, it will only display 3 of their traceries, which is often a lot fewer than what they will actually have, especially if they're at or even somewhat close to the level cap. And this issue can really just make it harder to share and learn from players in game. And I don't even exactly know why it's an issue in the first place, actually, but come Gundabad, I would of course love to be able to see all the traceries shown in the tooltip. Alright, those are all of my concerns, and in summary, I think there needs to be some loot and acquisition improvements for both traceries and enhancement runes, because right now, just things feel bad all around to me as far as looting those go, and I think it would be much better to have more exciting loot come Gundabad. Additionally, I think some of the user interface systems and just information the game gives you about the new ally system could also be improved upon. But even with all these concerns, my initial thoughts on the system as a whole are still that I like it actually more than the old system right now from an overall perspective, that is. And I do believe it has a lot of potential to be much better if the necessary improvements are made. But for now, that is where I will leave this review until the follow-up video, which will be a lot more positive in general. And once the ally system is more fleshed out with the full release of Gundabad, I plan to do a more thorough review on the system after I play through the expansion quite a bit. And with that, that is all I have for this video, so if you have any thoughts on all the topics I discussed and these concerns, please do share in the comments. And otherwise, if you enjoyed this video or learned something useful, please consider liking and subscribing for more, or becoming a channel member to support the content, and thanks for watching, everyone.